These are my new preferred settings with the GoPro 13. For active vlogging only. For passive vlogging or your static shots only, it's a different story. But for here, what I like to do is focus more on the shutter because we're moving. So the shutter is locked at 240. The EV has to be at 0 whenever you lock the shutter somewhere. And the ISO is set max 400, minimum 100. High denoise. Medium sharpness. Audio is on just standard, no voice enhancement. So I got it handheld only. You could have a pod, but I don't because I like to flip it around. The problem is that when you try to put the shutter at 240, the EV is at 0, so that's an issue. But you're going to get a smooth shot because the shutter is locked. Now, this is all dependent on your ability to look at the light and go, okay, this is where you need to lock the shutter because it may fall below to a 40. But if you think there's enough light where the shutter is not going to fall below 240, well, in that case, you could put the shutter on auto. Shutter's on auto, EV's on 0. It kind of looks the same. We don't know where that shutter is. Now, it's, getting close to noon, but the day is overcast. So you kind of don't know where that shutter is. So we could have some electronic image stabilization shades here, or we might not. You kind of don't know. It's hard to see because the screen is so small on the back, and the screen is like way smaller on the front, so forget about judging it by the front screen. But that's the thing. That's a problem with GoPro 13. You need to be able to lock that shutter and lock and control the EV and ideally control the ISO all at the same time. But you kind of can't. So you got to do some guessing. You got to do all this guessing. You got to guess your exposure. You got to be able to guess the light in the day and then set your adjustments accordingly. And you need a really good screen. And you need that screen to be able to kind of visually monitor this. Unless you have some zebras. You don't have zebras. So you kind of have to pick your poison. But this is only a problem for active shots where you're moving. If you're doing a static shot, well then you can kind of slow down, take a look at your front screen, kind of study it, decide if the exposure is okay. Then of course you don't have to worry about electronic image stabilization because you're static. So for static shots, every camera is just easier to use. It's for active shots where you're moving. This is where the problems develop. Because now you got the shake issues and you have the exposure is jumping all over the place. You're walking in and out of the light. So you kind of have to decide what's more important, exposure or camera shake. So I'm thinking camera shake might be more annoying when you're moving. So right now we have auto shutter. EV is locked at -2, but I kind of don't know if the camera's shaking or not, which is really annoying. And here's the thing: if I lock the shutter at 240, that might overexpose it. So you still kind of have to eyeball the exposure at some point and go, okay, I'm going to adjust the exposure because of this, that, and the other thing. I think that there's enough light that I think this -2 is going to work. It's a little bit dark on my face though, but still we're moving, and I suspect it's going to be smooth. And when you're moving, smoothness and less shake might be better than the absolute correct exposure. Okay, here we are moving, and now we have what I would call the best active vlogging settings. Shutter is locked to 240. EV automatically goes to 0. And I can set the ISO wherever I want. I've got it set at max 400. So it looks pretty bright on this back screen, but it looks okay-ish. And it looks okay here on the front screen. These are the ideal active vlogging settings for the GoPro 13. But man, if it was a real bright day, I think this 240 shutter here would be not enough. I'd probably have to like raise the shutter. It's all about that, it's all about the screens. It's all about the screens, monitoring them, and making an evaluation based on what the screen says. So you need your screen brightness maximum. Right, 100% brightness. Like that almost looks way too bright at the 240 shutter. Like that's just way too bright. Like this has to come down. See, this is too bright. I'll bet you now if I make this shutter go to automatic, it'll bring down this exposure. Let's try it. Yes, this is definitely 0 EV, shutter automatic, ISO max 400. So definitely this is a situation where I needed to look at the back screen and make adjustments accordingly. So now we're on 0 EV auto shutter. I should take the EV and put it at max -1 or max -1.5. But really you can keep the EV at 0 if you're really good at just watching the screen. I'm watching the front screen now, and it looks not too bad, but you have to be, like an overcast day like this, or in low light, you can watch your screens and make the proper evaluation. Like this looks okay. Like this looks okay. But if it's weird light, and you can't see these screens properly, then you're in trouble. You know, it really does take a while to get to know your camera. It's just hard to like, oh, I'm gonna review a camera in the course of one day and then make a killer video on it. No. See, I got some moire and aliasing here, it looks like. But it's like, it's hard to just go, oh, I'm just gonna like watch a YouTube video and decide based on the YouTube video whether I'm gonna buy this camera or not. Nah, you gotta buy it and use it for a long time. You get to really know it and adapt to it. And it just takes time. And then you have to have talent. I've been watching some reviews by James Loxton. This guy's really good. His personality is so big, he can make a camera look good just on the basis of his personality alone. Like, his personality is so good that he can just like, it overpowers the camera review. Like, he's just so entertaining that he was doing this review of the Ace Pro 2 and it was just like, geez, that guy's got such a great personality. I want to buy this camera based on his personality. The problem is, I don't have James Loxton's personality. So even if I do buy the Ace Pro 2, it's never going to look as good because I'm not James Loxton. I've adjusted the EV down to -2 Shutter is still auto. ISO is locked at 400 max. So I think that looks better. Again, it's because I'm reading this front screen and it's an overcast day, so I can do it. But man, if you can't read these screens, if you don't get to know these, if you just don't get to know the GoPro 13 well enough, you're going to be in trouble. You know what you have to do with these cameras? You have to have a point of view. You have to have a style. You have to get to know the camera as good as the back of your hand, and then make a decision that this is going to be my style. And then, yeah, maybe you can like get a look going. But if you're not willing to do that, you know, pretty much no camera is going to be good enough. And that's even before you get to the James Loxton personality. Like, that guy's got so much personality. Like, he can talk about anything. He's so interesting that he could explore a place or a space and like you almost forget about the camera. He could have any camera and make it look good. Like, that's where you have to, that's the level you have to get to. So you have to have this look thing. Like, I'm trying to establish a look or a style. And then you have to get your personality going, and oh my god, by the time you factor all this stuff in, I mean, it's almost like you have to be some sort of Casey Neistat level YouTuber, which is not easy. But that's what you gotta aim for. It just takes time. It takes reps. You have to like shoot and shoot and shoot and like post and post and post. You really have to love it. Isn't that cool? Kind of all these reflections. Sort of, kind of, not really. Let's see if we can make it. We're walking fast. Testing this stabilization. Yeah, so this looks great. EV is -2, shutter is auto, ISO is capped at 400. The screens look good. So this looks like an excellent. This shot looks amazing. However, I still kind of think that for vlogging, action cameras have a field of view that's a bit too wide. I kind of wish that the field of view was just a little bit narrower, in that 20 to 22 millimeter range. I still think that's the sweet spot. So I don't know. I still need to keep one of these cameras in my arsenal, but I think that I'm considering other cameras for vlogging. So stay tuned for those videos. I don't know. We'll see.